And welcome back to the channel, guys. And in this video I'm going to be showing you how to make a wire accessory cable splitter, which was a tongue twister, that you'll be able to install at least 5 accessories onto this battery. And the battery is going to be, hopefully you watched that video, which was pretty much the previous video on how to install 2 accessory batteries onto the Venom Motorsports e-vader. And without further ado, let's go over to the bench and let me show you how to make this cable accessory.
Alrighty guys, so now we're over here at the bench and we are going to make our little kind of like spider web of cables for accessories. So on both positive and negative, we are going to do for 5 accessories. You may not need it for, you may not have 5 accessories to install on the bike. Right now I'm only counting about 3 for myself. And I'll have those 2 extra ports for whatever reason if I come across something that I want to install and use power. Or I may never use it, but at least I'll have it there just in case. Alright, so let's get started. So first we're going to need to grab some positive cable. And now you want to make sure that you make a long enough positive cabling for yourself. You don't want to make it too short, because if you get an abundance of accessories, it might bunch up in an area that you don't want it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the bike and kind of measure, and we'll take it from there on where exactly we want the bunch of cables to be at. Alright, so I'm going to go to the other side because it's kind of busy over there on that side. Alright, so you can see I got some cables that I haven't installed yet. And yeah, or I did, I'm just putting it off to the side for now as I have a couple of videos going on at the same time. Therefore explains why I still have electrical tape over the battery. Alright, so this is pretty much where I'm going to be installing. This battery is mainly going to be for accessories. Glow kits, it's phone chargers, or any other accessory for that matter. Alright, so this is the positive side, I believe, or it doesn't really matter. We're just kind of measuring an area where we want our bunch of cabling to be. And kind of this pocket area is a good enough spot. So if I do a whole bunch of accessories, I could know that I have the space to, put all the cabling there. So right about there should be good enough. Alright, so I'm just going to hold this, before this thing starts getting tangled up. I'm going to go ahead and hold this part like this, and I'm going to go over to the bench and we're going to go ahead and cut this part, and we're going to measure all the other cables to be this length as well. Alright, so we're over back at the bench and I'm going to go ahead and cut the cable. Okay, there we go. So now we have our basis for our length of cabling of all the other ones to be the same, and same with the negative. So while I go ahead and cut an additional 4 more pieces here and 5 more pieces of this one, then I'll show you what to do next. Alright, so you already got all 5 of these going, and we did all the 5 of the negatives. So next we're going to do is on one end of all of these, we're going to strip just a little bit more. I would say probably a little bit half of what your top of your finger would be on there, because once you get all of these already stripped on one end, you're going to twist all the ends on each, and then you're going to put it all together, and it's going to look like this black one. So that's what you're doing on one end, and on the other end you're still going to strip it as well, but you're not going to strip as long, as this is the part we're going to install all of the Spade terminals, which are going to be female. So go ahead and do that with all your red cables and all your black cables, and then after that I might as well just tell you now that we are going to install a bunch of female Spade connectors, and these ones are insulated. As you can see, it already has a cover. So this is pretty much what you want. And you're wondering, why am I doing all females on all of it, at the top and on the bottom? It's because if I were to do the male connectors on the end part over here, when you put it on the bike, you're going to have all of those male connectors touching each other, the metal. So if they touch each other, they could short, they could cause a fire. You definitely don't want that. So having a female connector that are insulated like this, you could have these laying around, a whole bunch of these like it is in this bag. They're not going to ever touch each other or short out or anything like that. So that's why I'm doing all female connectors. So you're going to have to do the same for yours. And it's going to be female on this end, because this is the part that's actually going to connect to the battery. So on the battery, it's coming out as a male connector, so we're going to have to connect a female connector on that side. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and put all my connectors, splice the rest of these cables, and then I'll show you what to do next. Okay, now we are done having our 2 extension cables or whatnot for the accessories. And what I did, you see over here, is I decided to put a little bit of heat shrink tubing on the cable, just in case there was any exposed wiring. So I did that for both before I actually put these connectors on. All right, so now that we got both our positive and negative, let's go over to the bike and install the cables. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and remove my electrical tape that I put over here, you know, to just kind of protect the terminals in case anything were to, you know, kind of touch it, even though there is a little cap that came with the battery on them. So I'm gonna go ahead and kind of just move it off to the side for now. And then I'm gonna remove the little cap that it came with and just put that away. And then I'm gonna keep the tape there just in case, you know, once I put everything, just to kind of cover everything. All right, move that off to the side as well. There we go. And then we'll remove that little cap that it came with. All right, so now that we have our terminals exposed, I'm going to go ahead and connect my negative cabling. I can go ahead and slide that in there all the way. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and connect the positive. And then we're going to go ahead and slide that all in all the way as well. Alright, proving, there we go. I was about to say, proving a little difficult there. Alright, so now that we have all our cabling there, now we could just go ahead and probably I'll, you know, do a little bit better on tucking the cables like on the edge, like this way, and probably putting a couple of zip ties to make sure that the cables are all nice and neat. And same on this side, I'm gonna, you know, tuck it in over here and have all the cables nice and neat. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and you guys do the same. Alright, so for good measure, even though these are already covered and kind of insulated, I just really, you know, the ends are still kind of exposed and, you know, positive and negative kind of being close together. It could touch and maybe spark. So to prevent that from happening, I'm only going to be using 2 out of the 5 ports that we made for the battery. And I'm going to be using some heat shrink tubing, which is right here. The size of this is 3/4. So what you're going to do is pretty much, you know, grab any one of these and just kind of slide it over. We're not going to cover the whole thing like that. We want to have a little bit kind of like in the middle, so where it covers half and a little bit half here. And the reason is once we shrink it, we're able to actually, it gets kind of a gluey in here. So what you could do is you could squeeze this together and it'll seal it. So let me go ahead and do one so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Right about there. Just going to go ahead and just kind of shrink it over. Make sure you are turning this as you are, you know, heating it up. It doesn't really take that much to actually do it. So once it goes to there, you just go ahead and just kind of press it. I know it's kind of hot. Just, you know, if you have pliers, that'd even be better because then you could really crimp it down. So, and there we go. Now it kind of creates a nice little seal, a little cap. And then whenever you get to having a new accessory that you want to install, you could just go ahead and just pull this right off. All right, so I'm going to do that for 3, like I said, 3 out of the 5 that I'm doing. And you guys do the same, or if you are only using only 1 port from all 5, you can just, you know, seal whatever you're not going to use, pretty much is what I'm saying. All right, now as you can see, I already crimped everything else over here. So they're all sealed. So there's no way that any of these could touch anything or even metal like this. So everything will be safe. Now, if you do have any accessories to install back, you can just go ahead and connect everything back. Obviously, negative goes to negative, and it doesn't really matter which, you know, port you use. So I'm going to go ahead and connect this back to my harness. Okay, so let's go ahead and connect my negative to negative. There we go. I do see a little bit of exposed metal. I may wrap that with some electrical tape. All right, so we got that one, and let me get to this one. All right, so that's pretty much it. Now you can just go ahead and kind of, you know, just tuck the wires or the rest of these little connectors somewhere else, you know, and then, you know, kind of just, you know, make everything a little bit neat. But that's pretty much on how you do this. So this pretty much concludes the video. You know, if you guys enjoyed the video, please smash that like button right here. I don't know if I even have it correctly. Smash the like button. If you dislike it, smash the dislike button. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. Also, if you have any other ideas or suggestions, leave that also down below in the video. While you're down there, might as well subscribe. Hit the notification bell. That way you guys are up to date with my latest installations, applications, and anything else I do on this channel. And you guys take care. Catch you guys on the next one.